Well, welcome everybody. We're going to be starting with chapter 19 on the future active and middle indicative. And I think it's probably best that we just look at it together. And so open your books to page 197. I'll leave it to you to read the exegetical insight. It's a good one. The overview, we're going to talk about the future tense indicates an action occurring in the future. Very simple, very much like English. The future tense stem is formed from the verbal root, not the present tense stem. Okay. He's trying to emphasize that the root is more basic than the stem. The stem is pertains to a particular tense. And so the future can be formed by adding a sigma to the end of the future tense stem and then the primary personal endings, just like the present tense has. And contract verbs lengthen their contract vowel before the sigma. Agapao is the lexical form of that verb, but agapeso, the alpha, lengthened to eta before you add the sigma and the tense ending. And then knowing the square of stops is especially useful in identifying the future tense, because some of these future verbs change the two consonants to form a something like that. P and a sigma forms C. Right. English is very simple. The future tense describes an action that will occur in the future. To form the future, you add the helping verb will or shall to the present tense stem of the verb. The basic rule in older English is that shall is used for first person, like I and we, and will for the second and third. I shall work hard, you will work hard, you will slack off. That distinction has generally fallen into disuse today, and will is used everywhere in the indicative. Yeah, I was taught to use shall for first person when I was learning grammar, but will works just as good. And somebody mentioned last week that I think it was Ray, that MacArthur, when he was trying to tell everybody that
I shall or I will.
I shall or I will. It doesn't matter.
I think he said shall.
Yeah.
Because it shows his intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
19.3, 4 patterns. And we're only going to be talking about the first pattern in this chapter. Verbs follow 4 patterns in how the root is used to form its present tense stem. These patterns carry over to the other tenses, so they are important to learn. In this chapter, you'll learn pattern 1. These are verbs whose roots are not altered in forming their present tense stems, which means that the root, present tense stem, and future tense stems are identical. Well, luo is the verb that we've been following and will follow through all the different tenses. And you, David, sent me an email that it was a little confusing, I thought, the way he presented it. But just to clear up the...
Well, we're not really quite to that point where I was looking.
So. But, okay, I'll wait till we get there.
I mean, it's okay. He has on, I mean, since you mentioned it, it's really with that fact that, I'm sorry, where is that? Looking at his paradigms.
I printed it out here.
There's, because he uses luo for most of it, but then for the middle, he uses parauso.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's parauso mai. And it's just odd to make the statement and then all of his examples show different verbs.
Yeah.
So you can't actually see it in place.
I'll show you something that'll simplify it when we get there. Okay, for example, the root lu, and by the way, you probably remember when he precedes it with the asterisk, that is his way of showing the stem or the root. It's used to form the present, lu plus omega, omega's the ending, and the future, lu, sigma is the tense formative, and omega is the ending, luso. 3 categories. There are 3 categories of pattern 1 verbs. So pattern 1 has 3 subcategories. Roots ending in iota or upsilon, such as akuo. It forms it in a regular way. Akuo in the present becomes akuso in the future. Contract verbs, poieo, that's an epsilon contract. We already mentioned that it lengthens the connecting vowel, or the contract vowel in this case, from epsilon to eta. Poieso, footnote 3, the epsilon lengthens to eta before the sigma. And then roots ending in a stop. Remember we talked about third degree.
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
Like
roots ending in a stop. Blepo. P is a stop. And
would that be everything in the square of stops? Those are all stops, right? So that would include phi, chi, and theta as well, right. Which are what I don't usually think of as a stop, but that's a stop here. Yeah, got it.
I think they're called stops because it stops the flow of air momentarily as you pronounce it. P.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Theta doesn't feel like that's like a dental fricative. I think of it as a fricative, but he lists it in the square stops. So that's all I'm confirming. So
well, the rule is that the stop consonant plus the sigma tense formative combine into one letter, which is in this case psi, and it's
right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
When the P or the stem joins the sigma to form the future, P sigma is rewritten as psi, and it refers to 1913 square stops. So far, no problem, I don't think, right?
Yeah. No, I don't have any problem with any of it. Okay. Honestly, Carl, I was looking at this chart right here, which is a really good verb chart to understand what's happening. And he's talking about this, but it's not only here, but in every place where he shows the examples, the paradigm examples, he doesn't have one verb to show them all.
Yeah.
He puts a different one for the middle there.
That's confusing.
And that's all. And it's really okay. It's just it's like I said before, it would be helpful to actually have lists of verbs that were in certain categories, like they are middle indicative, like they're middle, like they're deponent verbs. It'd be good to have a list of every deponent verb.
We have
just in the lexical forms. It'd be good to have a list of all the verbs that are missing certain tenses.
Yeah.
I mean, somewhere I would expect it sort of a more complete, like you get in other languages. These are the rules.
We do have such a
and maybe I need that.
You want to eventually get this. It would be helpful even now, but it's pretty technical sometimes.
Yeah, because we get all the rules, but what we don't have is a good lay of the land. If that makes sense. If I'm saying that's the point.
But since we're just about there, turn to page 432.
Okay.
The gray edge pages. 432. This is the overview of indicative, and it uses luo all the way through for all the tenses.
Oh.
So there he has the middle indicative. Like
goodness gracious, it does have the middle indicative. I was like wondering, does it not have it?
It does exist.
Okay.
And it's a fairly common verb.
Sure. It makes sense that it would. I just wondered, You know, I mean, thank you, Carl, because this sort of chart made me wonder things like, do most verbs not have a middle indicative future?
No, that's not true.
That's not the case.
And I
wondered if it was mostly only deponent verbs that did because of how he did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. That answered all my questions.
Oh, I see. Okay, so
yeah,
lusomai.
Oh, yeah. Boy, thank you.
Peruomai is.
These are actually good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You'll want to get familiar with this
good section here is perhaps useful. Okay.
While you're looking, turn to page 450 in the back. This is something that you're going to be increasingly grateful to have. Tense forms of verbs occurring 50 times or more.
Okay.
And these 6 columns are tense forms. In English, we used to call them principal parts of verbs. And there's only, in English, only 3 principal parts. But in Greek, there are 6 tense forms.
This doesn't line up with these other columns. This is not that. I mean, okay.
There's
Should we try to understand this now, or is this
no? But I want you to know that it's here.
Because what's the column? So is this present?
First column. I wish he had put a column heading. I've got it in my book. Write it in there.
Okay, so it does. It is.
I'll make you a copy of
just tell us what it is, and I'm going to write it in.
The first column is the present tense.
Oops. That's present. Okay.
The second column is future active / middle. You got to write small.
Future active / middle. Now, why is that? I'm sorry. Why is that?
Why isn't future there?
Well.
Oh,
okay.
Wait a minute. Why isn't passive there?
No. Why is it not just plain future?
Well, it's.
Why is the second column not just plain future?
Because there's another future in the 6th column, which is future passive. So this is only part of the future.
Future
because there's a different tense form.
Yes, there's a separate tense form. I'll tell you about it in a minute. The third column is aorist active / middle. You can abbreviate if you need to, AOR.
And is that first aorist? Because there's a second.
Let's not, I know there is.
When we say just aorist, does that mean the same thing as first?
It's first and second.
Okay, so this is a mix of things. All right.
When we get to that chapter, we'll talk about
okay, active
and
middle.
then the 4th column is perfect active.
All right.
The 5th column is perfect middle / passive. Now they combine middle and passive in that tense, and active was separate. That's different from the present and the future.
Okay.
Okay. And the 6th column is aorist passive / future passive.
Aorist passive
/ future passive. Now, don't ask for an explanation yet because you don't have the background for it.
This is pretty strange, actually. So, okay.
But it'll get clearer when we get there.
Well, all right.
So
sorry,
what I also did is, just for my own sake, I wrote down which chapter they're found in and the definitions of those verbs. I had to write kind of small.
Well, okay.
So you'll want to do that at some point, I think.
I suppose. Because these are verbs that are going to appear a lot.
Yes, 50 or more times.
And if we know them, then we'll easily recognize.
Yeah, and
so help your legibility, I guess.
But in terms of the rows, they don't appear to be organized in any particular way. I mean,
the rows.
Yeah, as you go down the columns. Well, okay, but they aren't completely representative. So in other words, a row across isn't the same verb, or is it?
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So this represents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 verbs shown here.
Yeah, but then keep on going in the next pages. And
and it keeps. Oh, all right.
Keeps going. Yeah.
Oh, this is many pages.
Footnoted.
Oh,
Yeah, very heavily footnoted. It goes up through
oh my goodness.
page 460.
Egapeka.
Okay, all right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What? Okay, this is okay. Just being stupid, but this seems odd that it doesn't match the layout of the.
Well, he didn't have enough space on this.
No, it doesn't match the layout of these tenses here. You don't have all of these represented and they're laid out the same.
Right.
That just seems odd to me, but okay.
Okay. The reason here is because this imperfect is based on the present. He does not, that's not a separate tense form.
Okay.
All right. We'll get that in chapter 21.
But here we have future, which includes the active, middle, and passive.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, it does not include the passive because the passive is
what?
Future passive is all
future passive is
because it's the same tense form as aorist passive, apparently.
Yeah, well, it's
but aorist.
That's a simplification.
Okay, we just learned about this, and did he tell us that somehow that future is not passive?
No, but he does say that the future active and middle, how does he put it? Well, let's read it.
Yeah, all right.
Let's get back to where we were.
So what is this?
That won't be in the same order as this.
So what on this thing then is down here? Because this by reading this, I thought I'm reading here future passive. Is that not true?
Oh, wait a minute. That's right. This is
future passive.
But in this layout here, it's lumped with the second aorist.
Okay.
And there's a reason for it.
It's just odd to keep showing things in different ways.
Yeah, it is.
Makes it hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. 19.5. Overview chart, future active indicative. You've got these four parts. The future active tense stem, which in the case of luo is lu. Tense formative sigma is sigma, loose. And then the connecting vowel, either omicron or epsilon, ah. And then the primary active personal ending, men, lucimen. Okay, not too surprising. The future tense stem, as I said in 19.4, the roots of pattern 1 verbs move into both the present and the future tense stems without modification. The root and the two stems are identical. Footnote 5, technically the future tense stem is the future active middle tense stem since both the active and middle are both built on the same stem like in the present. It doesn't help me much.
Oh, okay, yes. And what he's really saying, so I'm sorry, what that really means, which I just now understood, is since he didn't talk about it at all, the future passive isn't built on the same stem?
That's
it's built on the aorist or perfect? Is that what we're being told? I don't know.
No, it's in this particular verb, it's the same stem for lu, but it's got different tense formatives. Instead of a sigma, it's got theta, eta, sigma.
No, I'm not sure you heard what I just said. He hasn't taught us the future passive.
No, and we're not going to get that.
And this comment here is that the future, I don't even know. I'm not sure why he says this because it's obvious that that's true anyway. Or I mean, it's like this footnote doesn't seem to mean anything.
It doesn't mean
it's not helpful to me. Okay, it's just like a spurious comment. Okay. I'm like, all right.
Tense formative. The future is formed by inserting a sigma between the future tense stem and the connecting vowel. This sigma is called a tense formative because it helps form the future tense, luso. Tense formative is a morpheme, just like the personal ending.
What's a morpheme again?
I wish I had brought my little book of definitions. Can we wait until next time and I'll try to answer
it?
Because if I try, I won't get it.
Doesn't matter.
It's just a little part of a verb. Now, different tenses have different tense formatives. Soon we'll have the aorist, and the tense formative for first aorist, at least, is sigma alpha, whereas future is just a sigma. Connecting vowel, same as in the present. And then personal endings, the future active indicative use the same primary active endings as the present active. They contract with the connecting vowels as they do in the present, forming omega, ace, a, amen, eta, and usi, just like in the present tense. So for this particular verb, it's very similar to the present tense in the active and middle.
Yeah.
Luso, luces, luce.
No, this wasn't hard.
Yeah.
Because it's so similar. All right.
But now the next chapter is going to get into these other patterns of the future, and then it's going to get a little more complicated.
Okay.
Halftime review, I don't think there's much to talk about there. Let's go on to future middle indicative. In the present tense, the middle and passive are the same form. In the future, the middle is a distinct form, and distinct from both the active and passive. You remember that in the present tense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the middle and passive have the same form.
Yeah, but now with this tense, they have separate forms. You will learn the future passive in chapter 24.
Right.
The future middle is formed from the future active tense stem, but uses primary middle / passive endings. I wish he had stuck with luo for this section here, but he didn't.
So different endings, same tense stem.
That's
versus
right.
Passive, which is different tense stem.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's right. Luo would have made it clear, but it's okay. It's I mean, I get it. It's all right.
Okay. And this chart is no surprise, so let's skip it. But, Perusamai, Peruse, Perusatai, Perusamatha, Perusatha, and Perusantai.
Perusometa.
Yeah, and he says
yeah.
So that's a funny one.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and this is what he does.
Esta is like that ending from present. It's the same ending as present, middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does this with all of his charts. He mixes up different verbs that represent different things, and it's like it would.
Is this one a deponent? Am I remembering that?
Yes,
right?
this is a
deponent.
Oh, okay. Because it's like I think the lexical form is perusomai.
Yeah, it is. Peruomai.
Right, not
without
with the
sigma.
sigma. Right, that's present tense. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Peruomai.
Let's just look at the back here in this.
Yeah, this is fine. But when he mixes it, he shows one verb in the form and a different verb for the present middle is a different verb. It's just not really helpful.
Okay.
He has luo over on the far right.
Exactly. It's a different verb. And he's showing it with a different verb, which is just not terribly helpful. Yes, they do the same things. These verbs behave in the same way.
But that's present middle, not present.
That's right. And now why he's doing that,
not future middle.
He's showing it doesn't have the sigma, I suppose. But I'm.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's all.
I didn't even catch the sigma. It's present middle.
Yeah, it's present middle.
Because it should be lusamai.
Yes.
Luce.
But he's.
Gosh, what is it supposed to be there then? Okay.
And then he does this. Then he gives us AUA. EUA. I'm sorry. How did I say it? Amy. Yeah.
Yeah. This is now. Amy is a special verb that we're going to have to learn pretty well. Now this looks very much like a.
And this one's
deponent.
This one's really was confusing because he puts over there. Right for future middle, And he does that thing again, and he goes future middle, and it's a totally different verb, and I'm not really sure
well,
why
he does that
doing
for
that to
just
us.
for reference to compare it. That's all he put.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
S-O-M-I, S-A, S-I.
Yeah, now.
So we can see that the
6,
endings are there. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same ending, but third singular has a little oddity. Footnote 6.
Yes.
Notice there's no connecting vowel.
That's
no
right.
connecting vowel is visible. S-tie. It's not S-a-tie, it's S-tie.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So this is one that probably ought to memorize. We memorized Amy.
Yeah. S-O-M-I
and by the way,
S-A.
they have the full paradigm of Amy back here.
But this is the way English verbs are too. You know, I mean, we have irregulars that don't make any sense.
That's right. Well, page 435 in the back gives you the full paradigm of Amy.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, you have to have a way to look these things. Honestly, this is the best tool is this lexicon that has them all in alphabetical.
Yeah.
So let me just real quick. So if I did it with luo,
yeah,
it would be lusomai.
That's right.
Luce.
Yes.
Lucetai.
Yes.
Lusometha.
That's right.
Lucesthe.
Yes.
And lusantai.
That's right.
That's right. That's exactly it.
Okay. That's really not that hard once I.
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Now he's given us overview of Greek tenses. This is where we're going in the next few chapters. 5 tenses, 7 forms. Greek has 5 tenses, footnote 7. There actually were 2 more, the pluperfect and the future perfect, but they were dropping out of use.
Fortunately for us.
Okay. There's still examples of it in the New Testament.
Got it.
Okay. This section's confusing because again, it's missing things that seem to be on the complete.
Well, the imperfect there is inserted between the present and the future because it's not a separate tense form.
Well,
it's based on the present tense.
Again, okay, is this just a bad chart? I mean,
no, it's not a bad chart.
Because
it's just selective, and it's in a different order than the book.
Because he doesn't list a future passive.
Here?
Oh. And then on that other chart, doesn't have a future passive.
That's because it's lumped together with the aorist passive.
Is the aorist passive the same form?
Not exactly.
I'm sorry.
But, okay. It follows a lot of the same rules. That's why they lumped it together. But when we get there, it'll be.
But we actually have to learn the future passive and how it works.
That's right.
But he doesn't list it here.
No, because it's lumped together with the aorist passive.
All right. Okay. Not my preference on how to teach.
No. Okay. Let's not spend time on this.
Yeah. Okay.
It's there if you want to look at it later. 1916, page 202. Lexicon listing. If you look up a verb in a lexicon, you will see something like the following. Footnote 9. In Basics of Biblical Greek, you find a form in parentheses between the present and future, luo, and eluon, which is the imperfect. Then luso, which is future, elusa, which is first aorist, then leluka, which is perfect, lelumai, I forget what that one is, and then eluthane, that's aorist passive.
Oh, okay.
But that's the heading, what you wrote down in your book, the headings of those different verbs that occur 50 times or more.
So That's interesting too, because so what I did on this chart,
Yeah.
I put numbers next to what I would expect in the lexicon.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like, well, that's actually really useful. So when I'm looking things up, I'll know this is the order they're in the lexicon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you just now do that?
No, I did that, well, like yesterday or
Oh, okay.
whatever, when I was doing my study.
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever helps.
Yeah.
Okay, compare this to the chart above. What chart above?
No, sorry, where are you? Oh, right, you're on 16.
So
Yeah.
are they in the same order then? So Luo
To the 5, 6, 7, whatever it
yeah,
is.
it's the previous page, 19.15, right?
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know which chart he means.
I think he's saying they're in the same order. Like, okay, so he would be saying that Luo is present tense. Luso is imperfect.
Future. No, that Luso is future.
Oh,
but,
so they're in a different order than he has.
Well, no, the imperfect, the one that's in parentheses.
That's at the end.
What?
Hold on. Let me find
not
it.
in here.
I can't. We just did that.
Oh. Why are we trying to compare it to this chart? We don't even.
I don't know why they don't
compare it to this chart.
Okay.
Skip that for now. Skip
Those are different verbs. It was the same verb as the previous.
Okay, we seem to be okay. Just it's an observation, but it seems that in some cases we're treating imperfect as if it's not a separate tense.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're treating it as a separate tense. Sometimes we're treating future.
Let me try to explain it, Dave.
Present passive as if it's not a separate form. It's actually pretty confusing.
Yeah. When we get to chapter 21, we'll be learning the imperfect tense, which is based on the present tense.
Okay.
It is a separate tense, and you would translate it differently.
And he lists it here as having a separate form.
Yeah.
Right?
I lost my place.
On page, I don't know which place you're trying to find.
201.
201
is where that listing of all the
tenses he says there's 5 tenses, and I count 6 over here, but apparently he's not talking about second aorist. Apparently he's not counting that. So there's 5 tenses and 7 forms, and so in this thing he's saying imperfect has a separate form.
But it's based on the present.
And I believe you. And then he says there's future active, which in another place he called it future active middle, which I guess I'm going to believe he means that here.
Yeah.
Right, as a form.
I think so.
And then aorist active, which leaves open a bunch of other questions like, does that include, which we haven't learned enough yet when he hasn't taught. And then there's perfect active, and perfect passive, which is called out as a separate form.
Yeah, that is a separate one.
But aorist active, is that all of aorist is the same form? There's a lot of, it's really, I think, very imprecise.
This is confusing. I think let's not.
If this chart's not really helpful, let's just ignore it.
Let's go on to 1917. Contract verbs.
Okay.
So far, you've learned what happens when the contract vowel comes in contact with the connecting vowel. They contract. But what happens if the contract vowel does not come into contact with another vowel? Such is the case in the future tense, where the contract vowel is immediately followed by the tense formative sigma. In this case, the contract vowel lengthens before a tense formative, and alpha and epsilon lengthen to eta. Both of those lengthen to eta. Omicron lengthens to omega. You can see the full paradigm in Morphology of Biblical Greek 43.2 if you wanted to look there.
This is interesting. I'm looking at that and wondering, is this a little bit like we have rules in English and in French and German, but in English we have rules about pronunciation. We don't change the letter. but it sounds long, right? If it has a consonant and a vowel following. Rise.
Okay. Yeah.
Versus RISSEN would be risen.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not perfect, but I'm just wondering if it's kind of similar, except they actually changed the letter.
I never thought of it that way.
It just occurred to me, is it really that strange a rule? Maybe not.
Now, I studied German too, and I know that German has very consistent rules for pronunciation.
They do. And so does French. English is stuck because it's using pronunciation rules from
a lot of different places.
Actually, like 5 languages.
Yeah. Yeah. Greek also has consistent rules for pronunciation.
Yeah. And these lengthenings, it seems that they change the vowels.
It is a different vowel.
Yeah, it is.
See, we don't have separate vowels that are the long.
Yeah, we use the same ones.
We have O, which can be either long or short.
Yeah.
But Greek has 2 separate letters.
2 separate letters, yeah. And I'm wondering, and alpha versus eta.
Yeah.
And epsilon versus eta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, then the square stops. We looked at that once before when we were in nouns.
One quick thing about this chart.
The
really operative information in 19.7 in that little chart of agapa, poie, plero, is that when the sigma is combined to that contract vowel ending, those vowels lengthen. The omega is not so significant as the fact that that's just the first person, ending. But that would be the same for any ending. So if that was aga pace, or I'm sorry, aga.
Let me get the whole paradigm in 43 too.
So they're contract vowels is what we're calling them. I mean, contract verbs. But are there exceptions that end in these letters that don't contract? Or is it really just that we're learning how to pronounce how the rules for combining letters? It's always like this is what happens.
Yeah, we are learning the rules for when vowels contract,
and lengthen.
And lengthen.
And if you had some other, are there any verbs that end in like this in these letters that don't behave this way?
That end with the same vowels.
Yeah, are there any verbs that end with epsilon that don't behave this way?
I think I can answer that in a minute here.
Yeah.
But like so agape, future. Sorry. So let's say second person singular, future active indicative would be agapeses, right? With an eta.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's all. That's what I was trying to
That's what you're. Yes.
The fact that it's an omega is kind of irrelevant. In this.
Here's
how it's working.
Yes, I think that's right.
Here's contract verbs. The 3 different the alpha, the epsilon, and the omicron contract verbs in the future active indicative. He uses different verbs. Genao is the alpha contract, poieo epsilon contract, and phanerao. But for instance, genao, here's how it goes. Geneso, geneses, genese, genesomen, genesita, and genesusin. It all of them lengthen to eta. And same thing with poieo, the epsilon lengthens to eta.
So it looks like all the verbs behave that way that end with those letters. Okay. But this is not a complete list of all verbs.
No, but it's just the 3 different contract verbs.
Oh, all right.
And it's just the future active.
You had You had this some.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, these are just wonderment. I just kind of wonder about how this is really working. So is it really, so Zach's question then, the answer is for these verbs that behave this way, whenever we follow them
Regardless
with sigma and a vowel, they're going to link.
Yes,
no matter what
right.
that vowel
Doesn't
is.
matter what the personal ending is.
That's
it has
right.
that sigma tense formative.
Yeah, it could be omega or epsilon.
Yeah, and it lengthens.
Or omicron.
Same rules regardless of the personal ending.
Or eta. So if it's followed by eta, it becomes yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Or alpha. I mean, there's a whole different ones depending on which thing we're looking at, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, can we go on to 1918 then? Square of stops.
Good question.
If the verbal stem ends in a stop, when the sigma is added to form the future, you see the same types of changes that you saw in third declension nouns ending in a stop. Sark plus sigma becomes sarks. Whenever you see a C or a C before the personal ending, blepso or deoxo, it is relatively safe to assume there's a sigma in there. The following chart shows the square stops with a fourth column showing what consonant results from joining the stop with a sigma. So a P plus a sigma becomes C, a beta plus a sigma becomes C, and so does a phi plus a sigma. And he gives examples of two of those three. Bleppo with the sigma, blep plus a sigma plus the ending is blepso. And then there's no example of beta plus a sigma, but there is a phi plus a sigma. Graph plus so becomes grapso. Because those three consonants are all labials.
Right.
And then you can see what it does with the velars and the dentals.
Beta plus sigma is C. Phi plus sigma is C. Okay.
Kappa, gamma, or chi become zeta.
Because I guess it's a little bit of an odd one. The other ones are obvious. Yeah.
Tau, sigma, theta becomes sigma.
Okay. Right. Then middle only or deponent verbs. Just because a verb is middle only in the present does not mean it's middle only in the future or any other tense. So how do you know if a verb is middle only in the future? As far as pattern 1 verbs are concerned, if the present is middle only, then most likely the future is middle only and vice versa. The example he gives is with perusomai. From now on, I'll go to the gentle. Perusomai is a middle only deponent. And it's future tense with that sigma in there. So that's, but what if you want to confirm that a certain form is not an exception? You can look up the verb in the lexicon, and if the second tense form ends in omai, then it's middle only.
Right.
Peruomai, perusomai.
Yeah.
So, but by that comparison, you know. Now there is a verb. If I can remember.
Does he mean future tense form? Because he's saying the second one in the row.
Yeah, the second one in the row is the future. Yeah, because it will be future middle instead of active.
Yeah, that's
middle active.
Second one in the row. Yeah. Got it. That is right.
Just like the way you can
for the
tell
active present
whether a verb is deponent in the present, the lexical form is present tense.
Right.
And if the verb ends in omai,
then it will
deponent.
go to the middle.
And that's why his lexicon entries include
the future.
First person singular of each of those tenses.
That's right.
Because then
it's future active in the tense, because if the active is missing, it'll be middle.
Right. So if it ends with oh my.
Yeah.
It's middle.
Okay.
Middle is oh my.
I don't think we need to read the summary or the master indicative verb chart. We've been talking about that.
Go to the Gentiles.
But now, the vocabulary.
Hmm.
It's important that from the very beginning, you do not simply memorize these different tense forms. Learn to apply the rules and concentrate on recognition. Well, there are some, though, you have to memorize. Look at the different tense forms and ask yourself, would I recognize this form if I saw it? Do I understand how the different forms are related? If you don't think you will recognize a particular form, tense form, then memorize it. In the appendix, there is a list entitled Tense Forms of Verbs Occurring 50 Times or More. And I showed you that. It lists all the verbs that you will learn in BBG with all their different forms in the different tenses. I've highlighted in blue those forms I suspect you will need to commit to memory. Refer to it regularly. There's also a spreadsheet of these verbs in chapter 20 in the online class and you can mark it up. Okay, let's look at
this. Is the list. 450.
450 to 460.
That's the one you were just showing.
Yeah, I was showing you that. There are some that he
highlighted in blue, you said?
Yeah.
Is that what I just said?
I don't see any that end in blue.
I don't see any blue ones either. Well,
I'm trying to employ
maybe he's talking about this chart here.
No, there's not enough there. I don't think he has all that in there. No, he says this.
What are we looking at right now?
Yeah.
And so the paragraph says
450 to 460.
in the appendix, page 450 to 460. I've highlighted in blue those forms I expect you will need to commit to memory.
Well,
now there wouldn't be very many, I'd guess, but
here, let me show you something here.
But I don't see any highlighted.
I don't either.
Maybe Zach, you should look at those pages. You have better eyes than we have. So.
Yeah, blue and black look the same to me, pretty much.
I can
this lighting is not too conducive.
I can usually see it in this text. I can see what he's doing.
Okay, here's.
I think he did. I think it's wrong in this thing. It's not highlighted.
Publication snapping or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it.
All right, here's the way they did it in the second edition of the book. He underlined the ones that he thought you should memorize.
I see. So we could go through and copy that off.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll want to do that. Something.
Yeah. I don't think any of these are blue.
I'll make
a copy it.
I'll make a copy of this for you for next week.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna. The stops are here on this thing. But I realize he has in words, it would be much simpler just to put the consonant over here. I'm gonna fix that one again.
What's that?
On your stops roll here on the box, you have to read all the words. If you just put the letter over here, you'll know what's going on without having to read all the words. Down here, he explains what in the text he says with an arrow on page 203, and you don't need to read all the text. I'm just saying, as a note thing for a quick reference, I'm going to put the letters there. Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the vocabulary here since we got a little bit of time. Basileus is a noun. Basileos, king. Genao. It's an alpha contract verb.
Okay, why am I really
trouble?
Why am I feeling confused? That entry, aos.
Well, remember when we learned pistis and pisteos a few chapters back?
I'm sorry, I'm not remembering, but
that's an unusual genitive singular ending,
yeah,
right?
Well, there are a lot of nouns that have the genitive like that.
Okay.
Most of them
it's
are
the genitive ending.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, that's just like it's not normal. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then next one is genao. This is an alpha contract verb. It means I beget or give birth to or produce. And there you've got those 6 tense forms. The one that it doesn't have is the one that is listed in parentheses in his format.
It's funny how similar it sounds to Gune. Genau.
Yeah, there's a
sorry, Gunai. Is it Gunai? I forget.
Yeah, that means
wife.
woman or wife.
Right. From which we get gynecology.
Yes, it is.
But
and
Genao.
That's where you get Genesis.
Oh, yeah.
And you can kind of get the idea.
No, Genesis is the Greek word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a book that's very useful too. Complete vocabulary guide to the Greek New Testament. It has word groups, words that are grouped together. And let me see, I'm pretty sure that Genao and Gune are in the same group.
Yeah. So in the lexical entry, he does, the first one is actually the lexical entry,
yes.
And then the rest of the remaining tenses, right? So the first one in that list is the future.
No.
Present.
Oh, and
the future.
The
first
present.
So Ganao, and then Ganeso is the future active.
Because he's got 6 there, 5 there.
Yeah, the 6th one is the actual entry. Ganao.
Didn't he say most have 7? Never mind.
No, that's a different thing. There's only 6 entries in the lexicon. The actual entry and then this list.
Okay. I don't know what that list is.
We don't know what that list is about. We're going to ignore that list. Even though it's important, apparently.
I don't.
What are you doing to us, Bill?
It's been a great class.
Okay.
Zao
is another alpha contract.
Yeah.
And the stem or the root is za.
Like zo, za, and zo.
Yeah, it means I live.
Right.
What's that?
It's like zoe, which is the verb, the noun.
Yeah, that's a corresponding noun.
Oh, just to clarify about Genao, that's a contract one, right?
It is, yeah.
So it's actually Geno would be the present active.
That alpha is just there as a lexical form. It's not a.
And that's
that's right.
And that is why it's Geneso, not Genaso. Because it's contracted.
Because
lengthens.
Yeah, you'll never
the
see Genao
before the tense form.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And
which is really weird.
Same with. Oh, here's Zao. Look, he's got that form in parentheses. Ezone. That's the imperfect. He doesn't put the one in parentheses.
What? Why?
Well, just a minute. Let me find it.
This one.
You remember when?
This one has an extra one in parentheses.
Yes, and that's the imperfect. Just a minute.
No, that's all right.
I couldn't find it before, and it's still.
Is that because they don't have an imperfect?
Page 202. Go back to this, please.
Okay.
Footnote 9. In BBG, you find a form in parentheses between the present and the future. Luo is present. Eluon is in parentheses.
21.
And luso is the future. That form in parentheses is called the imperfect. We'll learn that in chapter 21. It's based on the present stem. That's why it's not a separate tense form. And some of the
same.
It doesn't because it's got the epsilon in front of it, which is called an augment.
So is there an implication here? Do not all verbs have an imperfect tense?
Apparently that's true. And I think that's why, it doesn't occur in the New Testament.
Okay. We don't see it, so it's not in the lexicon listing. Because we never see any.
So
that would be logical, but I don't want to assume that's what it means.
Right. It's the minimal set of common tenses. Of shared tenses.
Yeah.
Then why not make a dash there for the ones that we don't see it?
Well, they do. See
but for the others, they make a dash, but for this one, it's just not there. Instead, they use parentheses. It's just a small thing, but it just seems like you should use the same common nomenclature everywhere and not do it different ways for everything.
Okay, in order to do it with a dash indicating that it doesn't occur in the New Testament, you'd have to put a parenthesis with a dash inside of it for ganao.
Because he's using the parentheses.
All I'm implying is that all these others could have had a dash comma here instead. And what he's done here is instead for this, he uses parenthesis. If instead ganao had a dash comma, it would follow the same form for every other thing he lists. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. But instead of doing that, because he didn't want to see a dash comma in front of most of them, he did this other weird thing. You know what? Using the same nomenclature to mean the same thing everywhere is actually really helpful.
Yeah. Consistency. Okay. Iudaia. Iudaios. Hey is Judea. Okay. Iudaios. Iudaion is Jewish.
Yeah.
When it's an adjective, and when it's a noun, in other words, an adjective, it's used.
But it's the same form. I mean, is it a different form? So when he says this, maybe I haven't learned this yet. How do we a noun we get over this? But I'm sorry, Carl. So there's no separate form for an adjective.
Well, its ending will match.
Yeah, remember when you have all three genders listed in the lexical form, that's an adjective.
It's so if eudaios is used as an adjective, its ending will match its antecedents.
Yeah, you have to be able.
Yes, you should be able to find out what it was pointing to.
But sometimes
that's what I'm saying. So the ending might be different than what the noun would do, because the noun's going to have a set of case endings. But if this is used as a
no, that's not what I meant.
Feminine.
There's no.
Not feminine.
We don't do something to the noun to make it an adjective.
Oh no.
No, but you do something. You can use an adjective substantively, then it becomes a noun.
Is that what that's saying?
That's what that is. Yeah.
What?
Eudaios.
There's no distinction. I mean, you just made a distinction of two things, but the classes are. It seems that unless we may not see all these things, there's no form difference between a noun and an adjective.
That's right.
It's just how they're used.
Right.
So to say that when I use an adjective substantively, well, it's a noun that I'm using as a noun. I mean,
it's an adjective used as a noun.
But there's no difference between a noun and an adjective.
Yes, there is.
Well, in usage, yes.
The good man. Good is the adjective, man is the noun.
Okay, I can't think of an example, but in English, the difference is in English, I have to say Jewish. I have to actually add to the noun, do something to it to make it an adjective. Yeah, in the Greek, there's no distinction.
That's right.
And you're saying the good man. Well, but so I can say, do the good. I mean, that's not an adjective. It's now a noun. Do the good. Now, you might say I've implied thing, but in Greek, I don't need to. It's actually a noun. You're saying substantively, the good man. In that case, it's not an adjective?
It is an adjective, but it's used substantively as a noun. We've done that.
Well, I understand.
You would call it a noun, though, right?
Yeah.
All right. This is.
Go back and review.
No, that's all right, but.
Yeah. Israel is the country. Karpas, karpuha is fruit, crop, or result. Maidson, maidson. This is an adjective, but it's a comparative degree. You remember you have good, better, best. Those are the positive, comparative, and superlative forms of the adjective good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, made zone is the comparative form of megas.
Oh, okay.
Made zone occurs only 46 times in the New Testament. I've included here because it is a comparative form of the adjective megas that occurs more frequently.
So
It's a full paradox.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next page. That word made zone is often followed by a word in genitive, just like pleon. You can use the keyword than. Yeah, greater than this one. Halos, hale, halon, it's an adjective. Means whole or complete, but it could also be used as an adverb. Then it means entirely. Halos often occurs in the predicate position when it's functioning adjectively, just like pas and the demonstrative pronouns. Proskuneo, this is an epsilon contract, means I worship. Literally, the derivation of this came from to kiss toward. Pros is to or toward, and kuneo is to kiss.
Oh.
And there he's listed the imperfect form in parentheses. And he's got previous words, which he hasn't given us the future until now. Okay, and then he's got some exegesis, which I'm not sure whether we need to spend time with that right now. If we need to, we'll get into it as we do the exercises.
All right.
Yeah, I think we will get into that next time when we do the exercises.
So proskuneo is also a contract vowel.
That's right, epsilon contract.
Proskuneso.
Naso. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Well, I've given you the exercises that I worked out. For next time, how about if we do the parsing and warm up? And
we're coming next time. We'll be. Wait, are we meeting next week or no? We're not.
We're not going to meet Thursday before Christmas.
Okay.
Which would be
the Thursday after Christmas is worse.
Yeah. We won't meet for 2 weeks in a row.
Okay, so
that would be.
So we have a big gap before we get together again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today's the 15th, is it?
I don't know how much Greek I'll do,
but yeah. Don't worry about it.
I mean,
it's like
so
Christmas.
14th. Did you say today's the 14th?
Yeah. So we're not going to get together 21st or the 26th. So this is the last one for 3 weeks.
Well, the 11th is the next meeting. Oh, the 4th. The 4th is the next meeting. Right?
Yes. Okay, so do you want to just not plan on not doing anything over Christmas break, and we'll do these together?
It would make our lives easier, but I hate to leave this off that long.
Yeah, man will be rusty after 3 weeks though.
Yeah.
We can do the parsing.
Do what you can.
We could have a party game, and say everybody try to translate
to parse this Greek. Yeah, that's a good.
That'll go over.
You can go to their their what do you call them, in our many or Bibles, and No,
Yeah.
never mind.
Well, next week it'll just be Josh here, right? So we'll just try to do it together next week.
We'll try, Carl. I don't know if we'll succeed,
Okay.
and no one else will succeed.
Well, and I think from what I heard Ray say last week, he's going to have to miss a lot after Christmas because of the legislature.
I'm sure Zach's going to come back.
I'm going to have a kid in March.
Oh,
we'll see how that goes.
After that,
wow.
Zach. And he's got a lot to do before that.
Yeah, I know.
Carl, maybe it's you and me.
I don't want to stop because I feel kind of invested in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like looking at this somewhere maybe.
Well, how much of your time
halfway,
is going to be taken up with the construction?
I mean, I really
Hard
probably
to
will
tell.
not have, certainly once the baby gets here,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking I'm going to have like any time for this
Yeah,
because I'm going to have to.
This is important. So I'm
Finish
going to try to keep
building
doing it. I plan to do a lot of help, as much as I can to help him, but I probably can't do that much.
All right. Well, if it's just you and me, Dave, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll just
I mean, you have the Zoom classes, and so it may be, I can't guarantee this will happen, but it may be that I just try to jump on the Zoom for a while.
Okay.
And see if there's any hope of catching up, because I mean, you guys will still be at it, months after the baby's been here. Maybe even once I finish the shed project, so it's possible. I'm kind of hoping to hang on by a thread for a bit and then actually give it time again. But
that might be why the previous class only had 2 grandmothers that went all the way through.
it's just tough to fit into your life if you.
Well, if I weren't retired, no, I can't say that.
But I really want to have this training, so I'm trying to figure out how I can make it.
so. Yeah. So when you said the good man, I want to. The thing that confuses me, and maybe I missed something here, but I think that's an adjective. I don't.
It is the good man. Good is the adjective.
Okay. So what am I missing here? Because in his thing, in the vocabulary we're talking about, when he says that the adjective would be the English meaning of Jewish. And I'm saying, well, okay, but in the Greek, I don't think there's anything you do to a noun to give it a different form. It's just the usage that causes it to
Here,
be.
I think this will clear it up.
Because so in the case of good is what? What's the word? The Greek for good is
agathos.
Agathos. There isn't any adverbial form or noun form. They are identical. It's a matter of usage, right?
Yeah. But when there is no noun in the context, then you assume that the adjective becomes a noun.
Well, yes. But
that's
and what I'm
the substantive use of it.
But you used an example of good man, which is not. That's
but
an adverbial.
Man is the noun, so you don't need to just.
Really. Oh, okay. It's just that the use of good there is adverbial. So that's why I'm
not adverbial.
I mean adjective. It's an adjective. Good is an adjective in that case. I think I'm following you, but my real question was that I'm just making sure I understand this is. In English, we do a thing to a noun to make it an adjective. Ish. Like one of them is we throw ish on the end of a noun.
Well, that's true with that word, but I'm not sure that's.
I'm not sure it's true with every word, but it's commonly done. But I haven't seen the Greek does that.
No, the way.
That's all I was observing.
The way the Greek converts an adjective into a noun is by having no noun in the context, and then you translate it substantively. If you go back to the chapter on adjectives.
Oh, if it's an adjective, if it's clearly an adjective such as good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good is better than bad.
The good, when previously we were talking about Jesus or a man, then the good walked across the street, then I know it's talking about the
good man.
man.
Yeah, you would
Okay,
supply
I'm
the word
sorry.
man.
Yes, that I follow.
Yeah.
That's what it was just that the way you said it was why I was confused.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. No. I'm like, I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page. All right. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well then, let's wait, folks.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Zach,
We're waiting for Zach to finish.
Close us in prayer then?
Sure.
Oh, we're not going to do. Oh, we don't have time to.
I don't think we do tonight.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, Carl. We took a lot of time, but
well,
I think we're enjoying it. I don't know.
Well, I think so too.
If
I enjoy your fellowship as much as what we're learning.
I wish this could too. You know, we could have more folks continue.
Oh, and by the way, are we still recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay, maybe
we
stop it and let's pray and
find the button. Pray first, and then we'll stop it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, that seems right.
Yeah, don't stop it just yet.
I'm getting lined up. Okay.
Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for the time that we have had thus far in studying this language. Thank you for the time that we've had together, God, as brothers, knit together, God, by your Spirit, by your work in our lives. Thank you for the encouragement that we've been to one another because of what you're doing in your Spirit. And thank you, Lord God. Whatever your plans are for the coming year in terms of priorities that have to be made, we ask that you would be honored, you would be glorified. And so we look forward to the new year for this class and for every aspect of our lives, knowing that as we submit them to you, they will be glorious, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, Zach.
All right, let's say good night to everybody. Carl?
Good night.